Most road races start pretty gently, and even in a time trial there's an element of control as you roll off the start ramp. But Simon, a start of a cyclocross race to me seems completely frenetic. It's almost like a bunch sprint, but at the beginning of the race rather than the end.
Absolutely. I think the hardest you probably ever have to go in any bike race is at the start of a cyclocross race. But there's loads of little tricks and tips that we can give you that will mean that you nail every start without ruining the rest of your race. I think first of all we need to think about what the actual objective of your start is. It sounds pretty stupid, but essentially you want to go hard enough off the start that you hold a position in the race where you don't get held up by slower riders when you get to corners and technical sections, but equally you don't go so hard for so long that you end up parking up and then everyone that you've just overtaken comes back past you 10 minutes later. So it's a balancing act.
So it's almost like, well, very much like in our parallels in relation to riding on a climb at the sweet spot. You want to ride nearly at a threshold, but not go into that red zone so you completely blow up and lose lots of places again.
Well, you will have to go into the red, but just not for so long that you can't recover. So that's what, you know, all the training's for, is to be able to go anaerobic, but then come back out and then go back in again. It has to be said though that the start, while really important, unless it's a flat, fast, dry day, it's not the be all and end all. You only have to watch Sven Nys in pretty much any Belgian cyclocross race and you'll see him cruising around mid-pack for the first few laps. And that's because he knows how to ride it, so he knows that he can bring the guys back, make up 30 seconds when he needs to. So I think he's a really good example of, you know, not getting too caught up in the start effort and then saving something for 10, 20, 30 minutes into the race when everyone else is going slower and you can go 2 miles an hour quicker.
Sounds good.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
You never told me you're doing that. So it's not just about standing hard on the pedals. What about skills, technique and tactics?
Absolutely. Okay, well, first things first, to get off the line, your first pedal stroke is obviously crucial, but not necessarily in the way you think about it. It's more about getting your trailing leg clipped in so that you can then accelerate hard with both feet on the pedals. Okay. So presumably you do practice clipping in?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, we all thought that. So that's really vital. You want to start with your lead leg at 1 or 2 o'clock, okay, and that gives you plenty of time for your trailing leg to then find the pedal so that you're clipped in first time as it comes over the 12 o'clock position. Now, that does take practice and people miss their pedals, you know, pro cross riders do it all the time, so it does happen and it's pretty much impossible to do it first time every time, but it's absolutely worth practicing to get off the line quickly.
To give it a go.
Go.
He's in! He's in!
Look at that.
Whew. So Tom, talked about the technique at the start of a race. What about gear selection? Because it's something that you don't really have to think about in a road race.
Yeah, your gear selection at the start is really important to get right, and clipping in easier is just one of the reasons. When you think about the gear you want to be in, you need to take into account a few factors: the gradient of the start, okay, the surface that you're starting on, and your position on the start grid. Cross starts, as we said, are really fast, so you're going to have to change gear at some point. So it's best to start in your big ring because the front mech can be a bit more unpredictable under strain. But on the other hand, you don't want to be over geared, so you need to weigh up whether the moment of easing off to change into your big ring is worse than being a little bit over geared at first.
Here we go.
Now, it's something to bear in mind if you are starting in your big ring. You're likely to be a long way up the cassette at the back, so your chain line isn't going to be optimal. And it's very easy to absent-mindedly start backpedaling when you're nervous on the start line. And so if you do that, you need to be really careful that the chain's not halfway through a jump or something. And when you start pedaling hard, you're just going to lose your gears. So do make sure that if you do backpedal, you then do a forward one as well. Right, Matt, the last thing to think about is the grid. So most cyclocross races will be gridded and therefore you get called up to the line in turn.
Well, I'm not going to be gridded, am I?
You will be gridded, you're just going to be gridded last.
What?
But that's not a problem, that's not a problem. We can tackle it anyway. Okay, so when you're pre-riding the course beforehand, you need to think not just about the start straight, but also what happens at the end of it. So is it a left-hand corner first or a right-hand corner first? All these little things sort of tell you which side of the grid you need to be on. So for example, if the start straight finishes in a sharp right-hand corner, we can be pretty sure that everyone's going to bunch up on the right-hand side. So maybe you're better off hanging far left, or you can hopefully go around the outside. But then equally, as we can see on our little fake start straight here, there's going to be one clear, smooth line down the middle, and it's going to be a lot rougher on the edge. Now, if you're strong and you're gridded badly, then you actually might make up a load of time if you stuck yourself in the crappy bit on the edge where it's going to be harder to pedal, but there's going to be less riders. So those are the things to think about when you've got the choice and you're being called up to the line.
I suppose, I mean, the parallels for me are in a road race. You know, it's sometimes you're in shelter, out the wind in the bunch. The only way to move up, especially when you're moving into a crosswind section, is to get into the wind, move up the outside and get in. So use your strength to your advantage when you see the opportunity, I guess.
Absolutely, and when everyone is bunched up in a cross race like that, you can make some big gains. You just got to obviously always factor it in that you don't go so far into the red that everyone overtakes you again. Good stuff. So really, the only way to practice race starts properly is to go away and race, but a really good drill is to do standing starts. So just like we are now, pretend it's a race start and then go for 1 minute as hard as you can.
3, 2, 1.
He's learning. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of Matt. He's just going to be so good.
For more GCN cyclocross videos, click on me.